Hey guys, it's your legal bestie, attorney Simone Redwine, with Girl, Is That Legal here on YouTube. Thanks for joining another legal rant and rave. I'm trying to do my best on weekdays to do as many of these as I can, as long as I have the time. Hold on, let me check this down. Whew. All right. There we go. Oh, there's a lot of noise in the background, huh? I am today I'm recording from my sister's house because tomorrow is my big day. Let me share my little picture with y'all. Let's see if it'll share. Oh, here we are. And tomorrow's my big day. So this is my junkie house and my little positive pregnancy test. I'm not actually pregnant. I am doing my egg retrieval tomorrow. So I'm excited about that process. I was very weirded out when they told me that today's step was I need to go take a pregnancy test and that it needed to come back positive. I said, the hell it is. I said, I wouldn't even know who the daddy is. But apparently, one of the egg fertility steps is that you take a test. When it comes back positive, then the next day I go in and they try to, take out my eggs, find out which ones are spoiled, and I don't know, I guess put them in the trash. And the ones that aren't spoiled, we don't put those in the refrigerator till I find my soulmate. So I'm excited about that. So I'm over here at my sister's because she's going to take me to the doctor tomorrow. So, hey, y'all, let's see who's in the chat. We got I Beat a Shit. Happy Friday, y'all. Heather Elliott, good to see you again. I know Heather is watching us from North Carolina. Belinda, good to see you. Thank you. I'm super excited. So, yeah, I'm just going through the freezing process. I do not want to fertilize them, not with a stranger, not with anybody I know. I'm going to just wait for a husband and then take it from there. MD said, excited for you in my journey. Thank you so much. I'm totally excited. And let me let y'all know. So here's what we got for the docket for today. All right. So for today's docket, we got an update on 90 Day Fiancé, specifically Michael and Angela's divorce. We've also got a Basketball Wives update. If you were in my live earlier today, let me know. Or if you watched that video. If not, we'll touch on it a little bit. The gist of it, y'all, is there's a warrant out for Jennifer Williams' fiance's arrest. Don't look like they're going to be able to get married next month because he's been a naughty boy. And then also Stormi from Love and Marriage Huntsville fights back. So if you've got anything else in the chat, y'all, any other topics y'all want to talk about in the chat, y'all let me know. Oh, child, somebody said Jen is slow AF. Well, yeah, I really should said the live was lit. It was like, y'all, that was my best live today. Hit that like button as you join the chat. It had 1,800 people in that chat. For me, that's like the woo-hoo. Wow, and more wow. So thank you for continuing to help me grow my channel. The goal for this month is if I can get to 30,000 subscribers, that would be great. So I know I have to do my part and be consistent, but I'm also excited, y'all, because it looks like in this month alone, we've already helped get justice for multiple people. And that warms my heart because we know I'm Catholic, so I'm barely getting into heaven, right? So I need to, do these kind of good acts and stuff to help people to where, I can get off that wait list for heaven, get on out of purgatory if that's where I'm going to be. And so one of those is, if you haven't watched my background check episode yet, on that episode, the one that I aired this week on Wednesday, not only did we help that single mom, but in the end, one of the wonderful updates is that she actually submitted to the court everything that I told her to do without a lawyer, and the judge doubled her child support without a hearing. So just take a look at that video. Take a look. If you are missing, you have not watched any of my background check episodes, those are episodes. Next week should be another. I'm going to air another one on Wednesday. So Wednesdays are background check days. Those are episodes where people write into me, say they want a background check on someone and why. And then I decide who I want to gift live on air a background check. Now, you may be anonymous, and I do redact identifying information from the document, but you get the records that help you determine whatever your issue is with that person, legal issue, child support issue, whether or not they can move in issue, whatever it is, you get that information. So So we got that. Also, don't forget, you can go to my website, which is, let's see, SimoneRedwine.com, as we show right on here, and order my ebook. My ebook is called, it is called, there we go. It's called Background Checks 101. Background Checks 101, how to find out the beginner's guide to finding out who the heck you're really dealing with. So let me share that screen right here. And in it, literally, it's really simple. I share with you how I run background checks, the software I use, all that information. And it's only 20 bucks. It is less than 20 bucks. It's $19.99. Use it to protect yourself, to protect your loved ones. Come on over, SimoneRedwine.com and do that. And then also, here we go. Hey y'all, it's Simone Redwine, your legal bestie, and catch me August 24th hosting the next Me versus Me showcase. Not only will we get to vibe out together, but you are going to see some of the most amazing female talent in the Houston Metroplex. Me versus Me, August 24th. I hope to see you there.
Show them that we can do this, because we always do this. Yeah, boy.
So guys, yes, I'm going to be hosting, if you're in Houston or you're coming to Houston, Saturday, August 24th. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I'm going to be hosting the event Me versus Me Showcase. It is also sponsored by Moet Hennessy. So there is going to be drinks flowing. We're going to have, we're going to have fashion. We're going to have a fashion show, as well as we're going to have performances. We've got all kind of different, we've got female DJs. So it's just going to be a blast. Come on out and meet your legal bestie. All right, let's get into this docket. All right, so first up, y'all. So remember, I think it was like last week or the week before. Let's see, let me stop the share. So last week or the week before, I talked about Angela and Michael from 90 Day Fiancé. Now, Angela and Michael, I really don't even like putting her picture on my screen, but Angela is the Caucasian woman. Here we go, Angela and Michael, 90 Day. She is the Caucasian woman that lives in Georgia, right? She's had she's had surgery. She's got umpteen kids and this and that. God's not through with her. That's all I can say about that. And we're gonna put her up on the screen. Here we are. Sweet little Angela, one of the devil's favorites. There we are. So this is Angela. Angela and Michael from 90 Day Fiancé. Angela has actually filed for divorce against Michael. Angela brought him over. They've been dating. They started dating in 2018, married in 2020. So that's now 4 years that they've been married. However, she was only able to get him into the United States this past December. So he moves over here in December from Nigeria. Now, mind you, when he was in Nigeria, she wouldn't let him work. She wanted to pay his bills and those things because she was worried that if he worked or if he left the house, he'd cheat on her. Now, if you got to do all that, that ain't your man. That is not your man. That man is for the street. But nonetheless, and Angela is 20 years older than him at least, okay? So anyway, she brings Michael over. Well, now on the show, it showed how abusive that she was to Michael. She'd hit him. She'd do all kinds of things to him, right? But because he's a man, and I'd like to say because he's an African man, right? They're supposed to be super tough. You know, what's a lick to them? Historically, right? They've always felt that way about them. Then nothing was ever done. You know, the show allowed it. 90 Day Fiancé has always allowed it. He comes over here, and on one particular occasion, she hits him. She takes his phone. She does all kinds of different things, and so he escapes. He flees. Okay, he flees like a Harriet Tubman runaway slave. He never comes back. She then chooses to call the police and go to social media and claim that Michael's missing, and she doesn't know what's going on because he didn't take his phone that she had, the one that she had bought and monitored and tracks him on. He left that, as a good runaway slave would do, and he leaves and flees to safety. He doesn't tell her where she is. She notifies the cops. He calls the police and says, "No, I'm safe. I'm scared of her." I'd be scared of her too. First of all, she's had some surgery, so she's not quite as healthy as we see there. But you know, in that small town, it's like a Jefferson Davis County or some country town like that she's in. And in that town, you know, if the police are called and she says he hit her. Who you think getting arrested? Him. Look at him. Who you think a jury is going to side with? Who do you think a jury is going to find to be the more sympathetic victim? Him or her? I'll wait. I'll wait. So sure enough, he flees. I'm not going to I know where he's at. I'm not going to tell you where he is. But he flees and she is now filed for an annulment. She's done it based on the grounds of fraud. Now, what would be interesting is she also could have used the grounds of abandonment, potentially. Because abandonment is when you're, people talk about it all the time. My daddy went to see a man about a dog, or my daddy went to go get some milk from the store and never came back, whatever. It happens. It used to happen back in the day more. Now, we can find people. But no, she didn't say abandonment. She said fraud, specifically claiming that he fraudulently induced her to come over here. Here's the problem, stupid. Here is the problem, goofball. You've been married to him now for 4 years. You mean to tell me you just discovered the fraud? No, it's on camera. There are multiple episodes of 90 Day Fiancé where she's accusing him of the same thing over the course of the 4 years of their marriage. So this annulment is likely not going to fly. And here's what's important. The difference between annulment and a divorce. If you get an annulment, it means the marriage never happened. So it means you won't be on the hook for alimony or child support. That's her goal. Because by bringing over someone from another country, when you sign the paperwork to ask for the government to allow them to get the visa to come over, you are swearing under penalty of perjury that if this person ever needs financial support, meaning if they get so destitute they have to apply for government assistance, that you are going to step in and no matter what, in those first 10 years they're here, you are going to financially support them. Okay. But if it's an annulment, there are grounds where she may not have to do that. Okay. She may not have to do that. Whereas as a divorce, also an annulment could cause for him to be sent back. Now, currently, Michael is here in America under a green card. So he has a green card. He doesn't have permanent, he's not a citizen, but he is here on a green card, which means he is, he's able to work, but he's fleeing her. And mind you, she's given him no money to move, no any of that. He is doing what domestic violence survivors do, DV survivors do. So fast forward, Michael now has done a GoFundMe and she's mad, baby. She is mad. She is piping hot. When she gets mad, she already looks terrible. This is a very beautifully airbrushed photo of her. But she looked like she swallowed a carton of Newports and then stood upside down on her head and like jiggled a little bit and hasn't drunk any water in about 10 years. The level of dehydration is serious business. So she's been through some things internally and externally, right? And so here, thank you, driver seat, for the super chat. Oh, awesome. Thank you for the super chat. When I get super chats, it's great because it signals to YouTube that you guys are enjoying my content. So then they recommend my content to more people. Hazelhurst. There we go. Hazelhurst is where old girl lives. So she's mad that he went and did this GoFundMe. So his GoFundMe goal was $25K, which is wonderful for him. Let me break down for you why he needs it. Some people are like, why does he need it? He's on TV. He needs it for a lawyer. A divorce lawyer to fight a bee like this is going to be about 20 to 30K. Because she's not going to agree to anything. She's going to fight for everything. And on her end, I know she's going to expect that with her television experience, somebody should be giving her things for free. Oh, and she is the kind of person who's a deplorable client. I'm now at the point in my career, I've been practicing now for over 15 years, and I will fire clients, or I will not engage. Like we'll do a consult and I'll be like, okay, I don't think we're a good fit. I'll refer you to someone else just based on personalities. So when I see people like her coming down the street, baby, I lock them doors. I don't answer the Zoom. I close my computer, because when you get a client like her, your life's going to be hell. Anyhow, he's raised about 25K and it's growing. And I want to explain, he's going to need that for the lawyer, but he also is going to need that for a place to live. Because unlike you and I, this man don't have no credit. He just got here from Africa, literally. He got here from Africa in December. So it's wonderful to see how people have supported him. And let me tell you, here's my little advice. One thing I am a very creative lawyer. So, Michael, if you're watching, I know you got your little lawyer. That's good. That's a start. I'd also take some of that money and I'd go ahead and get an apartment, because what you can do, because you don't have credit, you can show the GoFundMe and use that as a component of proof of income, right? And or create pay stubs. If you needed to, you could make pay stubs from your TLC money. Because now that he's in America, that's the other thing. Now that he's in America, he can get paid from TLC because he's a permanent resident. But however, when he was over there in Africa, they weren't able to pay, is my understanding. They can't pay, the American company cannot pay people in America to do anything. Excuse me, gotta adjust myself. Y'all, I'm sitting on a beanbag. That's that noise. So it's wonderful. He should basically use some of that money to get himself an apartment, because he can't rely on her. He can't rely on her credit. Then after you do that, some nice conservative. I don't want to see you in one of these high rises living high in the sky, wherever you are. It was rumored he was in Indianapolis. But here's what you do next, Michael. Y'all lean in. I want to hear y'all's thoughts in the jury. I call y'all the jury. Michael, I want you to take yourself down to the welfare office and you need to apply for food stamps. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Here's why. Angela, in her annulment petition, is asking that Michael be responsible for all of her legal fees. Girl, bye. You done beat this man all upside his head. He's fled your violence, and you got the audacity to talk about something. You need to pay for my legal fees. With what, B? With what? He doesn't have a job. If the genders were switched, everyone would be in arms and would be dragging that man up and down the street. You don't get to have somebody come to America, be here 6 months, and then be like, let me knock you upside your head. Oh, and then you got to pay me to leave. This is not slavery. We is free, Angela. We is free. So I think, here's why. Stay with me with the logic. Michael, go sign up for food stamps. Because what? As I said at the beginning of this segment, she signed paperwork with the U.S. government saying she will be financially responsible for you for the next 10 years. So when you sign up for food stamps, it triggers ding, 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 something with the government where they are then going to go to her and say, we're not giving you food stamps, but we will make Angela compensate you sufficiently so that you don't have to be on food stamps. Do you get me, y'all? See, when it comes to divorces, you got to have strategy and gamesmanship. This is not your friend no more. We ain't friends no more. You want to play? You want to knock me upside my head and play? So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying exploiting the system. I'm saying you use the system, because for so long, right, especially as people of color, the system has been used against us. But the system, the laws itself, are actually one of the few equal playing fields that we have, because it's in writing and it's supposed to be the same for both sides. So if he goes to the food stamp office, signs up for food stamps, the judge in that case is going to have to look at that and say, wait a minute. I got this woman who's gainfully employed. Not only is she gainfully employed, she gets paid for appearances. She travels for appearances. She has brand deals, all of that with her little mean behind, right? She's getting all this money. And this man, and knocking this man upside the head, which he needs to say in his response, right? And then a judge will have to say, well, hold on. Until this annulment is resolved, you're going to have to give this man something. Because what we're not going to do, especially in old Hazelhurst, Georgia, they don't believe in people getting on government assistance, right? Okay, well, here you go. That's one way, one potential strategy. Here we go. It said, and she's embarrassing every time we see them. Who calls a man a beat? She calls him all outside his name. Yes, he can say he's fleeing domestic violence to get away from her. That's correct. So in any divorce, though, I want to be very clear. In whether it's a divorce or an annulment, during the proceeding process, you are allowed to ask for what's called temporary orders. Temporary orders are when you say to the court, hey, we're not officially divorced, but I need to survive in the meantime. So a judge will order that the other spouse give you some money in the meantime for you to survive. I think $2,000 a month would be fair. At the end of the day, because of what she signed, since he is an immigrant, she has to provide him with what he would need to not be on government assistance, right? So if he would have been able to get $600 a month in food stamps. She has to give him at least that. And if he would have qualified financially, right, because no income, no this and that, if he would have qualified for uh, Section 8 or government housing, she got to give him the money for that too. Because who y'all think should have to foot the bill for this girl choosing to go upside people's head? Us, the taxpayers, or her? You see my drift? Us or her? The other thing is so even if she were to go for this annulment, if he says, I am the victim of DV, then what happens is he gets to stay in America regardless. Now, he's a permanent resident, so I think he should be okay. But even if he weren't, that is the one ground. And that is because there were a lot of immigrants who were having to suffer through DV because they were afraid to call the police, because they were afraid of being deported. And their partners would say, you can't call the cops on me. I'm going to get you deported. So the law specifically says in all states, because it's a federal rule, that if someone who has come over here, he's here legally, but if someone had come over here illegally, was the victim of that, they actually are permitted to stay, but they have to plead it. You can't just go around saying it. You have to plead it. You have to get the proper paperwork in. All right. Yeah, she bought me. Oh, driver said he doesn't deserve anything. Okay, why do you think he doesn't deserve anything? Her bully self. Okay. If the roles were reversed, people would be ready to fight. They sure would be. All right, I want to hear more thoughts on whether you think, or do you think he should just go on back home? I think part of the challenge is he had not been working in his home country of Nigeria. Hey, good to see you, really, B. He had not been working in Nigeria because she didn't want him to work. And the agreement was when he came to America, he could work and he could move on and he could do all these things. But you need a stable place to stay. You need transportation. He ain't got that. And you need a place, you need the basics to get on your feet. And anyone, even if you watch, who is it? Natalie, crazy eyes, Natalie. And her guy, Natalie, is from the Ukraine. He has been supporting her. She's at a whole separate apartment in a whole nother city. And I'm not saying you have to give somebody a comfortable lifestyle, but in any route, you can't just decide I'm going to knock you upside your head and either you take it or you live poverty stricken. Driver's seat said these illegals are getting way too much. He should go back home. Africa is a fertile continent with every resource known to man. It is about time that they had a revolution. Okay, driver's seat is the funniest troll in my chat. That's all I'm gonna say. He's a grown man. He should have had a job. How do you get a job if you're not legally allowed to work? He just got paperwork to do so. So it does take a little bit of time. So I think the question is, are you making efforts? It's just like with unemployment, right? If you're collecting unemployment, the state requires you to show you're making efforts to get a job. It's the same thing with welfare and everything else. She is required to support this man until he can get on his feet. And I think it is more than fair because he didn't have all his paperwork to work the minute he touched U.S. soil. That's not how that works. It takes time. And like I said, he's only been here for about 6 months. So I think it is reasonable to give him 2 lives today. Yeah, he's not an illegal. He's a permanent resident. He should go back home then. To what? I don't think it's fair to tell someone, okay, you should leave when they don't have anything to return to due to the agreement of the two. She had him sell everything. She had him move, etc., etc. But the good news is, based on the GoFundMe, he's able to now hire an attorney. And at the end of the day, here's what the gig is and what Angela's really going to be mad about. He wants to give her a divorce. He don't mind divorcing her. He does not mind divorcing her. So it's probably going to get transferred from an annulment. You heard it here first. It's going to get transferred from an annulment. That's going to get denied, but it'll become a divorce. And he's going to say, great, have your little raggedy divorce and stop beating me upside the head. I want to get away from you, crazy lady. And then she's going to be really mad that it didn't shake up the way that she wants, because 80% of divorces are filed for by women. And the majority of those, the woman is doing it to scare the man into changing his behavior or taking her concerns more seriously or whatever. So a lot of times when the man ultimately is like, you filed? Okay, I'll give it to you. The woman's like, wait, I don't want it. That's just the way it is. That is a literal fact. 80% of divorces are filed for by women. All right, moving right along. Yep, that's a good point. She withheld his ability to work so that she could use him as a handyman, a babysitter, and so forth. See, when you're insecure in the way that she is, they like knowing where you are at all times. So she doesn't even want him to have a cell phone she can't control. She does not want him to be around women, specifically his age, because lo and behold, he meets someone that don't knock him upside the head, calling bees and things like this. Someone said, let him stay. She treats him like a runaway slave. Gotcha. Yes, he does. All right. So that's Angela. We're going to stay tuned, but here is my prediction. My prediction is her annulment will be denied, but they will allow her to proceed in divorce. And that in divorce, it's going to be one or two things. See, I don't think Michael got that much fight in him. He just don't got that type of fight. I think he's going to walk away with nothing but his pride and being able to start a new life. I don't think he's going to ask for support or any of that. And I think because also he doesn't understand the American system. I think he seems like a really sweet guy. I think that he's not going to go for everything that he is entitled to. He's just going to be happy with the piece of going away. But if he does go for what he's entitled to, I'm going to be very proud of him. I will say that. All right. So that's these two stanky panks. Next up, we did 90 Day Fiancé. All right, Basketball Wives. I'll just briefly talk about that. But with Basketball Wives, on that one, we talked about it earlier. That was Miss Jennifer Williams. We talked about how there has been a warrant out for the arrest of her boo thing. Where did it go? And the warrant was because he was running around internationally and nationally with Jennifer Williams. So if you hadn't caught my live from earlier today, just briefly, the gist of what I break down is why it is there's a warrant for his arrest. The warrant was from the probation department because of the fact that he had not finished his probation. And under the rules, he was required to ask for permission for leaving the state. This dingbat didn't do that. So the probation officer talked about he went to California. Specifically, here's the thing. The probation officer first states in this document here, I'm going to make it a bit bigger. You can read off of it. Why can't I zoom in? My Lord. She states that the evidence that she found, she got off Jennifer Williams' own social media. Here we go. I got it here. From Jennifer Williams' social media, it says on or about July 18th, 2024, the defendant left the state of Georgia without permission and traveled to California. The defendant is engaged to Jennifer Williams from Basketball Wives. Ms. Williams posted her and the defendant in California on her social media. Ms. Williams has other posts on her social media page that indicate her and the defendant have been to Switzerland on or about July 6, 2024, and Italy on or about July 2nd. The defendant has not had permission to travel. Oh, and then on July 22nd, the supervising probation officer contacted the defendant to inquire if he left the state or country, in which he reported he had not. Just a bold-faced lie, y'all. He reported he's currently in Lake Oconee for a wedding and that he's been there for at least 2 days. The supervising officer has attached photos to a case note supporting the fact that the defendant did in fact leave Georgia without permission. And last year, on August 16th, 2023, it says an administrative hearing was held to address the defendant leaving the state without permission. In other words, he did the same thing last year, got a slap on the hand, and now he's over here trying the court. So the officer's recommendation was that probation respectfully requests that a warrant for the defendant's arrest be issued. So in that live, I break down how much more time he could be for this violation. Can you imagine? Nicole Brown, yep, you're talking about the other case. But can you imagine how silly you got to be to think you just gonna not ask for permission, go to these places, and then post the photos on social media? Do you think probation? My girl Really BTV says probation is not a suggestion. It's not. Probation is not a suggestion. It is a mandatory rule. And if you don't abide by it, so his probation is supposed to be up next August of 2025, the court can choose to incarcerate him for the remainder of that time. And here's the thing. When you are celebrity or celebrity affiliated, when you are on national television and you try them and you play with them, they have a tendency to want to throw the book at you due to the fact that they need to make an example out of you so other people do not try them in the same way. So there's a large chance that that's what's going to happen here. So go ahead, hit that like button, y'all. Hit the subscribe. And don't you forget, hit that notification button. It's by the subscribe. By hitting notification anytime I go live, you will get noticed. And y'all, next up, I'm going to remove this from the screen. I'll go ahead. Make sure y'all watch that video on my page. It was posted earlier today, baby. It's good. It's good. And I think we have upcoming a positive update on that case as well. That's for another day, another time. But next up is Stormi fights back, y'all. So if you recall, last week or the week before, I did a story about Stormi's former COO, which his name is Kyle Ivanko. Kyle Ivanko had filed, basically, he went to social media to air his grievances on how terribly he stated that Stormi has treated him after he, pulled up his bootstraps and he got in there and he helped Stormi turn around Canvas Beauty, her beauty brand. And thanks for that, she fired him. And she fired him, only offering him 1 month's salary, asking him to sign a non-disparagement, and asking him to sign a non-compete for 24 months. And oh, his heart was broken. His heart was broken, guys. Oh, how dare she do that? Well, baby, the tea has been spilled. He has filed a lawsuit in support of his claims, but so has she. Tomorrow, I'm going to go in depth. Okay, tomorrow I will go in depth. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., breaking down both cases. But I'm gonna give you a little taste today. Now, I'm not gonna name names this time. But over here, we're a community. Again, I call my viewers, my subscribers, I call y'all the jury, right? Because I love hearing your views. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to be ugly. And it was some people after that video in the comments who were like, one of my main comments was that based on what Kyle was saying, I said, it sounds to me, this man is sharing all the receipts, allegedly, right? All these receipts. And he's sharing everything but a contract. So I said, I don't think there's a contract. Oh, baby. Somebody got in these comments and got real ugly. Talking about some, there we go. Got real ugly. Talking about, of course there's a contract. He wouldn't be suing if there's a contract. Listen, stupid. It ain't no contract. Here's his complaint here. I have read it, top to bottom. And this man, not only was there not no contract. Remember how he was saying he was so devastated he helped build this company and she was trying to steal from him his right to profits. This man only worked for her for 16 months. In that 16 months, she paid that man $2.7 million plus $30,000 a month. Excuse me. I told y'all. I'm not like these other bloggers. There's a lot of bloggers I love, but I'm telling you, when I'm saying something that is legal, when I'm reviewing a case, I'm giving you my legal opinion. See, that's the thing. I'm not doing it based on emotion. She paid, let me say that again. She paid that man in 16 months, $2.7 million plus $30,000 a month. And he is claiming that he is a founder of Canvas Beauty, which I looked up. Canvas Beauty was in existence for 5 years before he got there. Baby, what? Child. And it's interesting how when people want to run the social media, right, and do this stuff, they want to tell the part of the story that makes him a victim. But they don't want to tell the part that makes them unreasonable. For example, here we go. Listen, let me get this. Over the last 18 months, correction, it wasn't 16, it was 18 months. I've been working with Stormi co-founder on rebuilding the legacy, blah, blah, blah. I turned around the business in debt that was losing money and had hundreds of unfulfilled orders. He goes in to talk about, here we go. all that he's done. Now, mind you, everything that he's done, he was paid, I think it said he started, I don't remember what amount he started at, but he was getting paid a retainer. He talks about it in here, a retainer. He was getting a retainer of $30,000. Let me tell you something. Do you know what I would do for $30,000 a month with my clothes on? With my clothes on. Somebody do the math. What is 2.7 million? I need these numbers. 2.7 million over 18 months. What is that per month? Because he says all this. Oh, mind you, all while he's doing this, he's working for other companies too. And so his claim is that Stormi owes him 30% of her profits for the rest of her life. I kid you not. I can't make this stuff up. I can't make it up. And that he is he is entitled to 30% equity. Now, if you have spent even one day watching Shark Tank, you know there's a difference between sharing profits and equity. Equity is for people who buy into the business, right? So if you go on Shark Tank, you're going to say, okay, I am looking for an investment of $200,000 in exchange for 10% equity or whatever it's going to be, right? Stay with me, guys. Stay with me. And it's based on the valuation of the business. This business was supposed to be valued at, I don't know what, but over 20 million. Do you know this man acknowledges he paid zero into the business? How are you going to have equity when you didn't buy into any equity? If he had told me he had paid some money toward equity, I can rock with that analysis and we'll just see. But again, he's gotten, according to him, I'm just going by what he says. According to him, he has no contract. He was given 30% of profits while he was there. Over 18 months, he was paid $2.7 million. So he's paid 2.4 plus 300,000. So 2.7 was the total. Plus he got 30K a month. So some of this I'm getting from his and some of them I'm getting from her petition. It's both. But y'all, that ain't what Campfire was reporting. That wasn't the story that he was giving to some of them other people. He claimed he gave them $30,000. Is that his investment? No, because he said he got paid that back. Remember, he talked about there was some months where he loaned money to the company. But then he got all that back. So that's not even what he's asking for back. In perpetuity, somebody said, get the heck out of here. Marriott said, he is crazy. I hope he loses. Oh, Butterfly says, Simone, don't worry about that unhinged cult. They've been trying to destroy Stormi's business because of their master. Oh my goodness. I know what you're talking about. He is talking about 2.0. I'm not sure what that means. I do need moderators. Marriott, if you'd like to be a moderator, I will definitely update. Monique said, we have laws for a reason. Right, Amber, something in the milk ain't clean with this story. And Stormi is a smart businesswoman. Right. So that's why, like, tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I go into both cases. I'm going to read I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm reading the part that has his version of the facts. And then I'm going to go into her version of the facts. Because what happens is kind of the way you get to the truth is you put both sets together and you're like, okay, putting these facts together, what makes the most sense? Monique said, here we go. That was a cold tread. Somebody said they have a cold tread lightly. All right. 100. Oh, thank you. That is $150,000 a month for 18 months. Let me tell you what I would do with my clothes on. He got $150,000 a month for 18 months with his clothes on, y'all. And still was not satisfied. Remember, he started as a contractor. He was always a contractor. In my prior video, and I will link that video, I talk about the difference between being a contractor, a consultant here. A consultant is a contractor, and being an employee. He has an active LinkedIn and Upwork where he's taking gigs and projects with other companies during the time he was working for Canvas Beauty, right? So how are you going to be a co-owner for this company but still working for another company? I'm not sure. But most importantly, I want to be clear. If you are buying into a pre-existing business, to do so, you have to pay something. You doing what you were already contracted to do and paid $150K per month doesn't get you equity in no universe, contract or no contract. And then there's something called the statute of frauds. The statute of frauds is a law in place that applies in Alabama and it applies in all states pretty much, that basically says certain kind of contracts must be in writing for them to be valid. A contract for real estate is one. You better believe a contract for equity, for stock, is another one. So Mr. Clemens said it's giving scammy. No integrity or dignity. Yeah. So I'm saying, I mean, when I say them blogs was dragging it, and all I did is I was just like, just reading his facts. I said I said same thing. Something in the milk isn't clean. Here's what it's giving, and we're gonna break down. I want your thoughts more. Here's what it's giving to me. It's giving, this man knew and knows. So this man was fired. He was upset for being fired. Here's the thing. You can be fired for any reason whatsoever. It is a work at will state. They don't have to give you any reason to fire you. You don't have to be fired for cause. The only state that has for cause is Montana. Okay, ain't nobody talking about Montana. Don't nobody care about Montana. So if he was a contractor, where is his exactly? So what it appears, because he himself makes this statement, which when I read it, I found it really interesting. We're gonna go to it. He says, let me share this one. Okay. Oop. No, let me go back to sharing it. It is. We're sharing. Oop. Come on, share it. Okay, we need this one. Oh, I see. Let me pull that down. Gotta remove that. And here we are. Now we've got this one on this page here. And if he was a contractor, where is contract? You have to agree upon an hourly. Exactly. And if you think about this, if you got to agree on a contracted hourly rate, don't you think you got to agree on stock? How much are you going to pay for your shares? How many shares you're going to get? When you're going to get them? But also remember, he's asking to be paid into perpetuity. I'll tell you this. One of the best examples I have is the pharmaceutical industry. I have a lot of friends that are pharmaceutical sales reps. And if anybody who's been a rep at a Fortune 500 company can tell you this, you get your bonus as long as you're there, still working for the company on the day bonuses are cut. So if you are getting a profit split, which is what his petition and her petition both state, is that he was being given 30% of profits as calculated. You get that as long as you're there. Once you are fired, you're not entitled to them anymore, because profit splits are an incentive to do a great job. So don't nobody want to incentivize you. There's nothing to incentivize you for, right? If you don't work there no more, goofy. So here's what he said, which was weird. Okay, and let me take this banner off so that it's not in the way so you can see it, because this is our last topic for today anyway. He states, look at this last paragraph. When I read it, it struck me kind of strange. He's talking about the ending conversation where they no longer began to agree anymore. He's the second to last. He says, during a phone call, when I mentioned that I sent a full list of everything I do and my contacts, should she need to replace me, she panicked. Okay, wait. Here's the thing. The only reason somebody sends that is if they're planning to quit or resign. Okay. Oh no, it said, yeah. So he sends the list and the contacts if she needs to replace me. She panicked and kept insisting that I was quitting and resigning. I denied this several times, saying over and over I wasn't quitting and I was not resigning. But she replied with many hurtful things, including that out of all the people she had ever worked with, including those that stole from her, I was the worst of them all. This stung. She told me I was done. So I thought to myself, what could he have done that would make her feel like he was the worst of them all? including the person that stole from her. I mean, you must have done something that was just so trifling and so messy. So now I'm curious if perhaps what she is referring to is the fact that she had paid him 3 weeks prior $2.7 million. A total of that. She had paid him like 300 or something earlier, and then 2.4. He talks about 2.4 million 3 weeks earlier. And then he goes and basically is doing things within the company. We're not exactly sure what, but whatever it was, it sounds like here she felt that she needed to get rid of him, and that whatever he had done was as bad as the person that was stealing. So I'm just saying, I knew from inception that there was probably more facts and not just what he said, because he's only going to say the things that were helpful. But interestingly, in his statement, look how long this is, y'all. 7, 8, 9 slides, 10. Is it a full carousel? We got 10 slides on here. This man never acknowledges that there was no contract, never acknowledges he was earning $30,000 a month, never acknowledges that he had received a total in 18 months of $2.7 million. So, yeah, it makes sense that she filed suit. She filed suit back. Like I said, I'm going to get into it more, but I'll just read here we go. I will read just her intro. Is really short of her complaint, and we'll get into it tomorrow. The intro states this that I found interesting. Plaintiff, she's the plaintiff, submits this complaint against Kyle. Kyle served as the company's COO. In this capacity, he was paid more than $3 million over the course of the last 16 months. So that $3 million would because that includes the monthly $30K a month plus the 2.7, right? Notwithstanding the termination of his employment with the company. So most companies aren't going to give you that and then, deal with all the other stuff. Okay, so here we go. And then it says Ivanko wrongfully claims he is entitled to 30% of all future profits in perpetuity, and that he owns certain intellectual property of the company, like labels that he made. Listen, you're a contractor or you're an employee of a company. Everything you make for the company is the company's. Why are they going to hire you and pay you $30K a month to make things that they then have to pay you a license for? Nobody's going to do that, stupid. And when we did this math, the math was $150K a month, right? If we kind of even it all out, all right? It says the company asked this court to declare that Ivanko is owed nothing more than the generous amounts the company has already paid him. Well, that was nice of him, because baby, I would have asked for a little defamation. I would have said a whole bunch of stuff. Was her company in the red because of his salary? No, it wasn't in the red because of his salary. Carrying on bad publicity is actually hurting his brand. Okay, so I think that's what this is really about. I think that once he was terminated and he realized he's never going to make this kind of money again, $150,000 a month. And I did a background check on him, y'all. When I did the background check, I saw he just bought $1 million house in California. So let's think about this. You bought $1 million house in California. Okay. And California's expensive. And he got him a little boyfriend. He got him a little cute little boyfriend thing, little cute little boyfriend husband thing. And them cute little boyfriend husbands over in California, they require you to have some money or they will leave you. They will get up and go. Okay. You're going to find him another somebody with some more money in California. And so I'm curious if it dawned on him after he was terminated, like, oh, shoot. Yes, I got this 2.7, but when am I going to make anything anywhere similar to the money I've been making here? We did the calculation. It was about $150 a month. And it sounds like he began to panic. Because according to the document, he first sent a demand. Before you file suit, you always send a demand. So he probably sent a demand thinking, all right, I know Stormi. She doesn't want bad publicity. The show was stressful enough for her. She's just going to pay some money to make this go away. But the problem was, and I said this in my prior coverage, what he messed up doing is going to social media before he had a lawyer send her a demand. He might have been able to squeeze out another $500,000 or something for privacy. But the minute you go public against the company, accusing them of all this kind of stuff, most companies would rather take the money that you might want or you might demand from them and pay a lawyer to fight you and beat the brakes off of you. especially when they've already been this level of generous. Because in Kyle's situation, by him coming out and doing this on social media, now what other kind of legitimate company is going to hire him? Ismael, which is another beauty brand, you think they're going to hire him? No. You think Super Scent? No. Kaleidoscope? No. No, no, and no. He might be able to work with a startup, and that's fine, but I bet they ain't got no $30,000 no month. And then they have to be concerned that he's going to dog them if they have an issue. Somebody said he's already spent it. I believe that. Let me tell you, that California living is expensive, okay? It's expensive, honey. She also needs to get off this. Somebody said she need to get off this silly show. Marriott said he hit a lick. Now he is going to spend it on lawyers. See, that's the thing, baby. Stormi might pull a Deion Sanders, honey. What Deion did was, when Deion was in the middle of divorce with his ex-wife, y'all, this is some tea. Peep this. This is one of my favorite divorce stories. Okay, when he was with Pilar, Pilar filed for divorce like 10 years and a day into their marriage, right? Because they had a prenup that said basically she wouldn't get anything unless they were married for at least 10 years. Now, I don't have a lot of sympathy for Pilar because Pilar was the mistress. Now, the story that I was told is that not only was she the mistress, but that one night after, they were together while he was still married to his prior wife, Deandra's mama, Pilar had left her panties under the wife's pillow, right? So that she would find it, she would get angry and she would leave. The wife is well educated. She went to FAMU, etc. So that was it. The wife ended up filing for divorce against Deion and they divorced. Well, then Pilar gets pregnant. And this is at the time when Deion had his spiritual awakening and he had become super religious. So he wanted to do the quote right thing, which is what you did back in the 90s, and married the woman that he impregnated. All right. So he gets her to sign a prenup. So she signs the prenup. Fast forward, when it's time for divorce, she tries to get the prenup invalidated. But here's the catch. Deion, the GOAT, the OG, what he did when his lawyers drafted up the prenup, they gave her the prenup and they said, hey, you go ahead and you sign it. And it was right before the wedding, like a day before the wedding. Usually a prenup signed that close to the wedding can easily, I won't say easily, but it can be invalidated by saying, oh, they were forced or pressured to sign it due to embarrassment, especially if the woman was pregnant or just had, their first child. His lawyers told her, hey, we're going to have you sign this. And guess what? We're going to give you a signing bonus. We're going to cut you $100,000 check as your signing bonus for signing this. Now, back in 1990, like in today's dollars, the signing bonus was being equivalent about $330,000. So it was $100,000 back in the 90s. Baby, she spent every dime of that. So fast forward a decade later, when she files for divorce and tries to get the prenup invalidated, the judge says, well, ma'am, didn't you get a signing bonus? And she says, well, yes. He said, and did you spend it? She said, well, yes. He said, well, you going to return it? She said, well, no. The judge said, well, then the prenup stands. See? And what ended up happening is she fought so hard. She was entitled to $2 million. She fought and so hard that she ended up owing $2.1 million to her lawyers, to her divorce lawyers. So she ended up spending every dime she received plus $100,000 on her legal fees. If Kyle ain't careful, that's what's going to happen to him. He's going to end up spending every dime that he has left fighting a case he should not have brought in the first place if he hadn't been greedy. All right, so let me see. Somebody said Deion must be the GOAT. Don't you think? What do y'all think of that? I just felt like that was some creative stuff. So now I tell all my friends, hey, if there is a huge financial difference between the two, you better get that girl a signing bonus. That way she can't come back later and talk about it was not fair. Philly John said, woohoo. He was paid as he worked. Absolutely. How much does he feel he was wrong? You know what? Let me go to this. A lot, because he feels he's entitled to 30% of Canvas Beauty for the rest of time, for the rest of Stormi's life, as long as that company is owed. He also believes that he's entitled to 30% of $5 million that they had. So every company Think of Amazon and all those. Every company, you got to keep a war chest that you can reinvest into new technology, a rainy day, if you need it, put it to the side for legal fees, whatever. Anybody who has a company, you don't spend every darn dime. You don't distribute it. When it's distributed, it's usually called an owner's draw, right? And so the 5 million, I'm assuming, is being kept for that kind of fun. But he actually wants 30% of the 5 million, plus he wants 30% of all profits they make for the rest of time. Mind you, calling himself a co-founder with no contract in writing, and even though he came into the company after it was 5 years old, and he paid zero to buy into the equity of the company. Even on Shark Tank, they pay something in exchange for equity every episode. Did Jeannie Mai get a bonus for signing a prenup? Would that be public record? No, she didn't. We would know by now that that divorce is resolved. She did not. No, and what I'm saying is most people wouldn't even think of that. Most lawyers don't even do it. Dion is just the OG. He's the GOAT for a reason. And if you ever retell that story, you tell him your legal bestie told it to you. Why does driver's seat says, why does the signing bonus throw out the signing under duress clause? Because you weren't under duress. You were happy. You spent it happy and heavily. You had 10 years to contest or say you had an issue and you didn't. You were happy, and she didn't even want to return the money. So you don't get it both ways. You don't get it both ways. Similarly here, you don't get to get your profit, to get a profit share, and then put zero into a business and then say, oh, wait, but because I did my job I was contracted to do as a contractor, I shouldn't just be paid my contractor rate. I should get a percentage of the company for the rest of my life. For what? See, consideration is what's required for every contract. Consideration meaning you're giving up something to get something. And what I'm challenged, help me in the chat if you can see it. What I'm challenged with is in Kyle's situation with Stormi's company, I'm not seeing what he is giving up to get equity. You got to give up something to give equity. And there's two ways that that's done. Now, if you are a true founder of a company, that started it from the ground up, for some people, what they'll give is like sweat equity and things like that at the beginning. But he's coming to an entity that's existed for 5 years. And here, he can't even say he gave sweat equity because he himself states he was paid a monthly retainer. He got a monthly retainer, and that monthly retainer was $30,000 a month. He hasn't given up anything to get equity. You got to buy in to equity, not do the job you were already hired to do. Literally in law school, they teach you it's not consideration if you're only giving what you agreed to give for another purpose. So it's just like if you work for a company and the company is telling you, hey, you're doing a really great job. Let's say your job is you're the accountant, but all of a sudden they say, hey, I heard you can DJ really good on the weekends. We want you to DJ. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to pay anything extra. You'd be like, get out of here. No, if you want me to give you extra, you're going to have to pay me extra. So he wants something extra. Mind you, that wasn't in writing or in a contract, but he doesn't want to pay into it. It was very strange. Let me take that off the screen because that was related to. He thinks he's some savior. He did his job. Thank you for your job. Yeah. And I think it's counterintuitive, but a lot of people, it's counterintuitive to think that you can do an excellent job at your job and still get fired and nobody's broken any law. But in this situation, based on that statement I read back to you, it's clear that Stormi feels he hadn't done what he was supposed to do, right? And so if you haven't done what you're supposed to do, your boss has every right to fire you. Well, that was the other thing that's unclear. He's saying he believes he has a right to 30% of profits for life, right? Okay. So does that mean you can never be fired? Or that's what I'm confused about. Because I don't know in what universe you're entitled to profits after you've left a company. Because the problem becomes, as companies grow, they need to be able to give profits to other entities. So it says, oh yes, thank you, Lil Mama. Hit that like button, y'all. Hit that subscribe too. Tieko says, I'm shocked he got an attorney to file this case without documentation of a written agreement. There has to be something more here. When I get into it tomorrow, there are laws, there are rules. There's a concept called promissory estoppel, which is one that says you made a promise to me. I was inconvenienced by this promise, and so therefore you should have to keep your promise. And yesterday, Wednesday, on the Court of Public Opinion with Al Reynolds, I got into that concept. We got into that concept. It was being used by, her last name was Hamby, Denisha, I think her name Hamby. She was a basketball player in the WNBA. And basically what she was saying is that her WNBA contract, she had her contract, but in addition, they had agreed to pay for her kids' private school and pay for her housing, even though it wasn't in the contract. She's saying promissory estoppel, meaning she picked up, she moved, she took this contract, she did those things and was inconvenienced in exchange for their agreement to give her those things. His thing here is, what were you inconvenienced, buddy? You're still working for, I think it was 3 other companies that I saw you was still working for, and you didn't give up anything. So in the basketball player example, she gave up the opportunity to go to a different team. She gave up, she relocated. She put her kids in that private school, and I believe they had paid like for the first year of her kids' private school. So your kids are going to be inconvenienced by, okay, now you're going to switch them schools, that kind of thing. So I will say there is a premise to do that. Here we go. Hit that like. Surrender Riviera says this man was paid for his work, and that's it. He brought Story's company out of the red, and that's what Stormi and her husband paid him for. That's it. He's not entitled to anything else. Yeah, I agree. I just don't know if this was like Jeff Bezos in the beginning. Like, would he be doing this? Like, would he be doing this if it was a guy? Would he be doing it if it was a guy who looked like him or his dad? I don't know. I see all the time women's businesses getting taken advantage of. I'll just put it like that. Yeah, I don't think he respects her either. I mean, because when you respect somebody, you don't air your grievances on social media. Like, if he had gone straight to his attorney and like, you let your lawyer handle it for you. He said he gave up or agreed to give up his Cracker Jack. See, nobody asked him to do that anywhere in what he said, and he still has it, and he's still taking other contracts. So yes, Dana, I hear you that he said those things, but nobody asked him to do that. And I think that Cracker Jack wasn't making any money in the first place, so there wasn't anything to give up. Also, he's still taking contracts on Upwork today as we speak. So there's that. He said, thank you, Rob. He said he gave up his pro Cracker Jack company. He gave $40K to her and did numerous jobs. TikTok was his contact from working there for he worked there for like 6 months. It wasn't 7 years. And Rob, I'm not saying you got your facts wrong. I'm telling you, I do know that. I know the facts. So he worked there back when TikTok only had like 6 employees. And because he has it in his post, he was like, now I'm back at TikTok. He worked there in the very beginning before it was the version of TikTok that we see today. And it wasn't 7 years. It was like a year, singular. But even still, again, that was what he was paid to do. I bet you he was probably paid. So this is what usually happens when you're using like an Upwork or something like that. The first thing companies want to do is they want to bring someone in to do digital and social marketing, because that's going to give them the best bang for his buck, right? So he came in there and used and did digital marketing or whatever needed to be done to help the company. And to say he gave up his Cracker Jack company, well, the Cracker Jack company did the exact same thing that he's doing here. And so I would be interested in hearing, like, for example, okay, what were the contracts that he turned down versus what were the contracts that he took? Either way, here's the thing. I would be hard pressed to believe that those contracts that he turned down would have been $150,000 a month, which is what he was paid here over the course of 18 months. You see what I'm saying, Rob? Okay. Driver's seat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Are you familiar with the Bethany Frankel clause from Real House of New York? I'm familiar with Bethany, but no, I am not familiar with that clause. I have to look it up. Tell me more about it if you'd like to in the chat. It says he sounds like he wants something he knows he's not entitled to, and that's why he went to YouTube. See, that's the thing. When I see people, whenever you see people go to the court of public opinion, right? Go to social media to air their legal grievances, it's usually for that reason. It's usually because they want to bully somebody into giving them something they don't have a contract to support. Because if you had a contract, it seems like this could be something that could have been mediated, and he could have gotten way more money for signing a confidentiality agreement. Dana said, "Oh, okay, thank you, Dana. Yeah, you're saying we're just stating the nonsense that he had in his lawsuit. By no means do I think he's entitled." Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, in the end, I hate when I see. I feel that I did a little digging too. I don't want to give too much away for tomorrow, but I did a little digging into. Oh shoot, is it 6? Oh shit, 6:11. I'm supposed to be doing a video with Make It Make Sense. But at the end of the day, I blame the lawyers. I blame the lawyers because if the lawyer didn't tell you, pump you up, believe you, or lead you to believe that you had a strong case, then you wouldn't have filed this. So I do believe some responsibility goes to his attorneys that told him, "Hey guys, this makes sense." Because we don't have to file anything that we don't feel that the law supports, and we shouldn't. Dimple said she was paying him too much for what he was doing, and he took her for a fool and thought he was going to get over on the black girl. He figured she didn't know any better. I wouldn't be surprised on that. But so this is all I got for today, y'all. Happy Friday. Wish me luck. Tomorrow is my agricheval. Oh, we're gonna pray. Oh, dang, I ain't got no sage. I need some sage. But we're gonna pray that it all goes well. And tune in tomorrow. I think it's 3:00. I have it set, which will be a breakdown of the Stormi and Kyle lawsuits. Again, they each file lawsuits, so we're gonna break down both of them and get your thoughts. Thank you. You like when Mims and I cover? I just love me some Mims. All right, guys, y'all have a great one. Bye-bye.